10 Ancient Secrets Buried in Plain Sight. The Labyrinth under Giza. Beneath the golden sands of Egypt, hidden under layers of mystery and time, there are whispers of a colossal structure. It is not the Great Pyramid, nor the Sphinx, nor the temples that attract millions of visitors every year. This is something else, something that ancient writers described as a labyrinth, so vast and complex that even the greatest monuments of Egypt pale in comparison. Greek historian Herodotus, often called the father of history, visited Egypt in the 5th century BCE. He wrote that near the city of Crocodilopolis, modern-day Hawara, stood a labyrinth so extraordinary that it rivaled, in his words, all the wonders of the world combined. He claimed it contained 12 great courts, 6 on the north and 6 on the south, arranged in perfect harmony. Within these courts were 3,000 chambers, 1,500 above ground and 1,500 below. The lower chambers, Herodotus said, were strictly off-limits, sealed by the priests, because they contained the tombs of kings and sacred crocodiles. Pause for a moment and imagine what that means. Thousands of rooms, stretching underground, carved with inscriptions that told the entire history of Egypt, a history that may stretch even further back than the dynasties we know. If Herodotus was right, then what lies buried beneath the sands of Hawara could be the single greatest library of stone the world has ever known. But here's the mystery. No trace of this labyrinth is visible today. Modern explorers walk across flat desert plains with only fragments of ancient ruins scattered on the surface. The massive structure described by Herodotus has seemingly disappeared, swallowed by sand and forgotten by time. Other ancient sources corroborate his claims. Strabo, the Greek geographer who traveled through Egypt centuries later, described the labyrinth in detail. He wrote that it had a roof made of a single massive stone slab and walls decorated with carvings of unimaginable precision. Pliny the Elder, writing in Rome, also mentioned the labyrinth, emphasizing its scale and complexity. These were not travelers prone to inventing fantasy. They were historians, geographers, and scholars. And they all agreed the labyrinth was real. So where did it go? In the late 19th century, British archaeologist Flinders Petrie conducted excavations in Hawara. He uncovered traces of a massive stone foundation, so large that he concluded it could only have supported an enormous structure. Yet even Petrie admitted that what he found was only the surface. The true labyrinth, if it survived, was buried deeper still. Fast forward to the 21st century. In 2008, a joint project between Egyptian authorities and a Belgian-Egyptian research team used ground-penetrating radar to survey the area near Hawara. What they found was astonishing. Vast anomalies beneath the earth, rectangular shapes consistent with walls and chambers, stretching far wider than the ruins above. Their conclusion was clear: the labyrinth may still be down there, preserved under layers of sand and water. Yet curiously, the results were never fully published and further exploration was halted. Why? Some suggest that the Egyptian government, protective of its heritage and its narrative of history, prefers to keep the labyrinth sealed until it can be studied under controlled circumstances. Others whisper of something darker, that perhaps what lies within the labyrinth could challenge conventional history so profoundly that it would be destabilizing to reveal it. Think of what could be hidden there. Rooms filled with papyri detailing dynasties older than the first dynasty, inscriptions revealing forgotten gods, or even knowledge of science and mathematics beyond what we credit to ancient Egypt. The possibility alone is staggering. Even today, locals in the Fayum region tell stories of tunnels and chambers beneath their villages. Some claim to hear hollow echoes beneath the ground, as though walking above great empty spaces. Could these be remnants of the labyrinth? Skeptics argue that Herodotus was exaggerating, that the labyrinth was a symbolic or ceremonial complex, not an actual maze of 3,000 rooms. But if that were true, Why would multiple independent sources describe it in such detail? Why would radar scans confirm the presence of massive underground anomalies in the very place these sources identified? There is another dimension to this story. Some fringe theorists believe the labyrinth is not merely an Egyptian creation, but a relic of a civilization older than Egypt itself. According to this view, Egypt inherited the labyrinth from a people whose memory has been erased, perhaps survivors of a great cataclysm, such as the fabled Atlantis or another lost culture of the deep past. Mainstream scholars dismiss this idea, yet the precision and scale of the supposed labyrinth remain unexplained. Now consider this. If the labyrinth does exist, and if it contains the tombs of kings as Herodotus described, it could hold the bodies of rulers predating the dynastic kings we know, perhaps even legendary figures spoken of only in myth. Imagine what DNA analysis, inscriptions, and artifacts from such tombs could reveal. It could extend the timeline of Egyptian civilization by thousands of years. The implications are profound. Was the labyrinth a storehouse of knowledge, a literal underground library of humanity's earliest wisdom? Was it deliberately hidden, its entrances sealed to keep its secrets from falling into the wrong hands? Or was it simply abandoned, left to the sands as dynasties rose and fell above it? As you picture the Great Pyramid, surrounded by tourists and cameras, remember that not far away, beneath unremarkable desert soil, may lie a labyrinth described as the most astonishing structure ever. Built, a city beneath a city, a memory carved in stone, a secret waiting to be rediscovered. And if Egypt hides such a labyrinth beneath its sands, then what about the world's greatest forest, a place where trees conceal entire civilizations? Our next step takes us into the heart of the Amazon, where a different kind of mystery has remained invisible for centuries. The invisible ruins of the Amazon. For centuries, the Amazon was described as a wilderness too harsh to sustain large civilizations. Explorers returning from its dense jungles told stories of impenetrable forests, endless rivers, and scattered tribes surviving on the edge of the possible. The European imagination labeled it a green desert, a place where advanced societies could never have thrived. But what if that story was wrong? What if beneath the thick canopy of vines, roots, and endless green, there are traces of entire worlds that once flourished and then vanished? What if the Amazon, far from being untouched, once held civilizations as complex as those of Mesopotamia or Egypt? For decades, this idea was dismissed. Archaeologists argued that the soil of the Amazon, poor in nutrients, could never sustain intensive agriculture. They believed that the jungle's humidity and floods made urban settlements impossible. The tribes encountered by explorers were taken as proof small, scattered, nomadic. How could such a place have hosted great cities? Then came technology that allowed us to see what the naked eye could not. With LiDAR scanning, a technology that uses laser pulses fired from aircraft, scientists stripped away the forest canopy digitally. And what they found changed everything. Beneath the trees appeared shapes, rectangular plazas, geometric earthworks, massive roads stretching straight for miles, and structures aligned to the movements of the stars. Cities, hidden for centuries under the jungle's blanket, suddenly came into focus. In Bolivia, LiDAR revealed the remains of the Kasarab culture, vast settlements connected by causeways, surrounded by canals and reservoirs that suggest a sophisticated water management system. These were not scattered tribes. These were organized, urbanized societies with infrastructure rivaling that of the ancient Old World. In Brazil, along the Xingu River, researchers found evidence of towns carefully planned in circular layouts, connected like the spokes of a wheel. These networks extended for miles, with ceremonial centers at their heart. Such precision points to centralized planning, governance, and cultural systems capable of coordinating thousands of people. And yet, By the time Europeans arrived in the 16th century, these civilizations were gone. Entire populations had disappeared, likely devastated by diseases brought from abroad, diseases against which they had no immunity. The jungle reclaimed the cities, trees rose where streets once ran, and the ruins dissolved into the soil. Imagine the tragedy. Entire cultures erased in just a few decades, leaving behind only faint outlines that nature itself worked tirelessly to conceal. When the first explorers ventured deeper, they saw only endless green. The ruins were invisible, hidden beneath their feet, and so the myth of the untouched Amazon was born. But local traditions never forgot. Indigenous oral histories speak of ancestors who lived in great cities, who built vast earthworks, who cultivated the land with techniques unknown to Europeans. For centuries, these stories were dismissed as legend. Now, with the help of modern science, we know they were true. The key lies in the soil itself. In many parts of the Amazon, archaeologists discovered something extraordinary: terra preta, or black earth. Unlike the poor natural soils of the region, terra preta is rich and fertile, created by ancient peoples who mixed charcoal, bone, and organic matter into the ground. This man-made soil has remained productive for centuries, capable of sustaining agriculture on a scale large enough to feed entire cities. This was not random discovery, it was deliberate scientific knowledge of the land. If advanced societies thrived in the Amazon, then our timeline of human civilization is incomplete. We were taught that complex urban life developed in Mesopotamia, Egypt, the Indus Valley, and China. But here, in South America, across a rainforest so vast it creates its own weather, people were building their own networks of cities, independent yet equally advanced. The implications are enormous. It means that human ingenuity is not limited by geography. Where scholars saw obstacles, poor soil, floods, dense jungle, the people of the Amazon saw possibilities. They engineered the land to their advantage, built infrastructure to connect and protect, and aligned their cities with the cosmos. They left behind patterns too precise to be chance. Now imagine flying in a helicopter over endless waves of green, mile after mile of forest stretching to the horizon. To the naked eye, it is uniform, chaotic, alive. But through the invisible lens of LiDAR, the jungle dissolves, and a hidden world emerges, roads straight as arrows, plazas glowing with geometric symmetry, ceremonial structures rising where trees had hidden them for centuries. Entire civilizations come back into view as though the forest itself were peeling back a curtain to reveal the truth. Skeptics still argue. Some claim that the settlements revealed by LiDAR were smaller than true cities, that they were towns or ceremonial centers rather than vast metropolises. But the sheer scale of what has been found, hundreds of interconnected sites spread across thousands of miles, suggests something much greater than isolated communities. And if even a fraction of these findings prove true, then the Amazon was not an untouched wilderness, but a cradle of civilization. Why does this matter? Because it forces us to rethink what we know about history. The Amazon's hidden cities prove that humanity has always adapted to its environment in ways more complex than we imagined. They show that knowledge can be lost not because it never existed, but because entire societies were erased. And they remind us that the greatest mysteries are often hidden not in remote deserts or mountains, but in plain sight beneath our very feet. Think about it. For centuries, countless travelers, scientists, and even satellites passed over the Amazon, blind to the civilization sleeping below. Only when we developed the technology to see beyond the surface did the truth begin to emerge. How many more secrets wait to be uncovered, hidden beneath the green? And if the jungle can swallow entire cities so completely that they vanish from human memory, then what else might the earth be hiding? In Peru, there is a doorway carved into stone that seems to lead nowhere. Yet local legends insist it is not just a doorway, but a portal, one that may have been used to cross into other worlds. The mystery of Hayumarca's Gate. In the highlands of southern Peru, far from the bustle of cities and the footsteps of tourists, lies a cliff face carved with an enigma. To the untrained eye, it may appear unremarkable, a tall, flat wall of reddish stone with a rectangular indentation at its center. But to those who live in the region, it is something far greater. They call it Hayumarca, the Gate of the Gods. This structure has fascinated explorers and mystics alike for decades. Unlike other famous ruins, it does not lead into a temple or connect to a larger complex. It is a single carved doorway over 20 feet high with the precision of a frame but no actual entrance. At its base, there is a smaller depression shaped like a smaller door within the larger one, as if designed to hold something circular or disc-shaped. To modern eyes, it is a doorway that leads nowhere. To local legends, it is a portal and entryway not to another room, but to another world. The story begins with the Aymara people who have lived in the region for centuries. According to their myths, this was once a sacred place where heroes and priests carried objects of immense power. They speak of a golden disc, a relic said to have descended from the sky. With this disc, priests could open the gate, stepping into a realm of gods and ancestors. The chosen who entered were said never to return, continuing their existence in another plane. One legend tells of an Inca priest named Aramumuru who fled Spanish conquerors carrying a sacred golden disc. As soldiers closed in, he reached Hayumarca, placed the disc into the depression at the center of the doorway, and watched as the stone glowed with light. He passed through the portal, vanishing forever. The gate sealed behind him, and no one else was able to follow. To the Spanish invaders, the doorway was meaningless, just another rock formation. But for the indigenous people, it remained a threshold between worlds, a sacred reminder that reality is more complex than it seems. Modern researchers have studied the site and confirmed its precision. The surface is unnaturally smooth. The cut of the doorway far too symmetrical to be natural erosion. The stone is granite, difficult to carve even with modern tools. Yet here it stands, carved centuries ago, if not longer, in the middle of nowhere. The smaller central niche is particularly puzzling. It looks designed for something to fit perfectly within it, like a key into a lock. Speculation abounds. Some archaeologists suggest it was an unfinished construction project, a doorway abandoned before completion. Others propose it was symbolic, a spiritual portal for rituals and ceremonies rather than a literal passage. But the local people remained steadfast. Hayumarca was more than symbolic. It was functional. Those who have visited the site often describe a strange sensation. Some report dizziness, tingling in the skin, or an overwhelming sense of awe. A few even claim to have experienced visions of stars, of landscapes unfamiliar, of voices whispering in forgotten tongues. Whether these are psychological effects of expectation or something else entirely, they add to the site's aura of mystery. But let us consider the possibility that there was indeed a purpose. If Hayumarca was intended as a portal, what does that mean? Could it have been a site of initiation, where shamans used it as a focal point for altered states of consciousness, entering the other world through trance and vision? Or was it more literal, a technology we cannot yet explain, a doorway into another dimension? The placement of the gate deepens the enigma. It lies near Lake Titicaca, itself surrounded by myths of origin. In Inca tradition, Lake Titicaca was where the first ancestors emerged, where gods descended to shape the world of men. The proximity suggests a connection that Hayumarca was part of a larger, sacred landscape tied to the birth of civilization in the Andes. Some researchers have noted the alignment of the doorway with astronomical points. Others argue that the design bears resemblance to structures in other parts of the world, such as the false doors of ancient Egypt or the stargate-like arches of Mesopotamia. Could it be that cultures separated by oceans shared a common idea of thresholds between realms encoded in stone? And then there are the accounts of modern shamans who continue to visit Hayu Marca. They perform rituals, leaving offerings of coca leaves and chicha, chanting to the spirits of the land. Some claim to hear humming from the stone, as though the rock itself resonates with hidden energy. They insist the doorway is still active, that with the right key, with the right alignment of stars, it can be opened once again. Skeptics dismiss such claims as imagination, but the persistence of these traditions speaks to something deeper. Why would a community for centuries continue to treat a carved doorway as sacred if it were meaningless? Why risk ridicule and disbelief unless there was at least a grain of truth? Think of the imagery. A golden disc placed into a stone doorway, creating a burst of light that allows someone to pass through. To modern ears, it sounds like science fiction. Yet to the people of Peru, it is a memory encoded in myth, passed down through generations. Were they describing a symbolic journey? Or were they recording, in the language of myth, something they had truly witnessed? Imagine standing before Hayu Marca today. The red granite glows under the high-altitude sun. The surface is cold to the touch, smooth as though polished by hands long gone. The silence of the Andes wraps around you, broken only by the whisper of wind. You look at the indentation in the stone and wonder, what once rested here? What key was lost? And if someone found it again, what would happen? The mystery of Hayu Marca challenges the boundaries of archaeology, mythology, and imagination. Perhaps it was never a physical portal, but a psychological one, a place where ritual opened doors of perception. Or perhaps it was exactly what the legends say, a gate to the realm of gods, sealed for now but waiting for someone brave enough to open it again. One thing is certain, for the people who live in its shadow, Hayu Marca is not a ruin. It is alive, a place where the ordinary world touches the extraordinary, where stone and spirit meet. And for those willing to listen, it continues to whisper of journeys not yet taken, of mysteries not yet solved. But Hayu Marca is not the only monument that hides deeper meaning. Across the ocean, in the fields of England, stand stones that everyone recognizes, yet few truly understand. Stones that do more than rise into the sky, they measure the heavens themselves, the hidden calendar of Stonehenge. Stonehenge rises out of the English plain like a sentinel of forgotten ages. Massive stone pillars, arranged in concentric circles, stand weathered by 5,000 years of wind, rain, and sun. For centuries, they have stirred wonder, inspiring myths of giants, druids, and celestial magic. Tourists flock to this lonely field near Salisbury, taking photographs of a monument that seems at once both familiar and unfathomable. But recent research suggests that Stonehenge was not simply a ceremonial site. It may have been one of the most precise calendars of the ancient world, a cosmic clock carved in stone. The monument as we see it today is only part of a larger sacred landscape. Surrounding Stonehenge are burial mounds, avenues, and other circles of wood and stone, forming an intricate network of ritual sites. Archaeologists now believe Stonehenge was the centerpiece of a complex system designed to connect earth, sky, and human life. The alignment of the stones reveals a profound understanding of astronomy. On the morning of the summer solstice, the sun rises directly over the heel stone, casting its rays through the heart of the monument. On the winter solstice, the setting sun aligns just as perfectly with the opposite axis. These alignments are not coincidences. They are the fingerprints of intentional design, proof that the builders were not only moving stone but charting the heavens. But deeper study shows that the structure encoded even more information. Researchers at University College London analyzed the arrangement of the stones and found that they correspond to a solar year of 365 days. The outer ring may have been divided into segments marking months of 30 days each, with additional markers to account for the 5 extra days needed to complete the cycle. Even leap years may have been considered, with special stones set apart to maintain accuracy. This means Stonehenge was not just a monument, it was a tool. Farmers could have used it to know the best times to plant and harvest. Priests could have timed their rituals to celestial events. Communities could have gathered here, guided by the stones, to align their lives with the cosmic rhythm. The monument was both sacred and practical, bridging the spiritual and the everyday. To grasp the magnitude of this, imagine the effort required. The stones at Stonehenge weigh up to 40 tons each, quarried from miles away and transported across rivers and plains. Some of the smaller bluestones were dragged from Wales, nearly 150 miles distant. Aligning them with precision to the solstices required generations of planning, patience, and astronomical observation. This was not the work of a simple people. It was the labor of a culture deeply connected to the cycles of the sky. Yet the mystery deepens. Why did they go to such lengths to create a calendar in stone? Some suggest it was to ensure survival, to track seasons for agriculture. Others argue it was religious, a way to mark the passage of time in harmony with gods and spirits. And still others believe it was a message, an enduring reminder that humanity belongs to the cosmos, written not on parchment but etched into the very bones of the earth. Legends surrounding Stonehenge have added to its aura. Medieval writers claim the wizard Merlin brought the stones from Ireland, raising them by magic. Others said they were erected by giants. These stories, though fanciful, reveal something deeper. Across cultures and centuries, people sensed there was something otherworldly about Stonehenge. It was never seen as merely a pile of rocks. It was always a doorway to understanding time and space. Modern technology has expanded our view. Ground-penetrating radar and aerial surveys have revealed hidden features around the site avenues aligned with solstices, pits forming massive circles, and even other monuments now buried under farmland. Stonehenge was part of a vast ceremonial complex, its calendar role perhaps linked to larger cycles of life and death. Some archaeologists believe the nearby wooden circle, known as Woodhenge, represented the world of the living, while Stonehenge, built of enduring stone, symbolized the world of the dead. Together, they may have reflected the eternal cycle of life, death, and rebirth, tied to the rising and setting of the sun. Standing at Stonehenge today, among the hum of tourists and cameras, it is difficult to feel what ancient people must have felt. Imagine instead standing there 5,000 years ago as the first light of the solstice sun breaks the horizon. The community gathers, silence falls, and then a golden beam strikes through the circle, illuminating the stones. To those watching, it was not just dawn. It was proof that the universe was ordered, that life had rhythm, that the gods had given them a sign. But even now, questions remain. Who built Stonehenge? Was it the work of one people, or did multiple cultures contribute over centuries? Why this exact location? And how did they achieve such astronomical precision without modern instruments? Each discovery raises new mysteries. Each answer opens another door. Stonehenge reminds us that knowledge does not always come with writing or machines. Sometimes it is carved into the earth itself, encoded in ways that outlast empires. It stands as proof that ancient people were not primitive wanderers, but scientists, engineers, and visionaries, capable of building monuments that still function long after their creators are gone. And yet, as mysterious as Stonehenge is, it is not the only enigma preserved in stone. Across Europe and beyond, Other relics survive that challenge our understanding of knowledge and time. But some mysteries are not carved in rock at all. Some are written in books that no one can read, filled with symbols no one can understand. And one such book, known as the Voynich manuscript, may hold secrets as deep and impenetrable as Stonehenge itself. The Voynich manuscript. In the hushed vaults of Yale University's Beinecke Rare Book and Manuscript Library rests a volume unlike any other. It is not large or imposing at first glance, bound in plain vellum, its edges worn by centuries. But when its pages are opened, the reader is transported into a world of profound mystery. Strange looping characters form words in an alphabet no one recognizes. Diagrams spiral into patterns of unknown meaning. Fantastic plants with roots, stems, and blossoms unlike anything on Earth fill entire folios. For over 600 years, this book has defied explanation. It is called the Voynich manuscript, and it may be the most mysterious text in the world. The story of the manuscript begins in the early 15th century, though even that is uncertain. Carbon dating of its vellum places it between 1404 and 1438, but where it was created and by whom remains unknown. The book surfaced publicly centuries later, in 1912, when a Polish antiquarian and book dealer named Wilfrid Voynich purchased it from a Jesuit library in Italy. Since then, the manuscript has carried his name, forever binding his legacy to its enigma. From the moment scholars laid eyes on it, they were baffled. The writing, composed of flowing characters, looks like a real language. Its words follow patterns of frequency and structure similar to natural human languages. Yet no one has ever deciphered it. Attempts to match it with known alphabets, from Latin to Hebrew to Arabic, failed. Cryptographers tried substitution ciphers, transposition codes, even computer algorithms, but the text resists all interpretation. During World War II, experts in code breaking, including those who cracked enemy communications, were given copies of the Voynich script. These were men trained to detect patterns in the most complex ciphers, yet even they admitted defeat. The code of the manuscript remained impenetrable. Some argue it must be a hoax, an elaborate medieval prank designed to deceive a wealthy patron or a gullible collector. But if so, it is one of the most convincing hoaxes ever created. The text has over 170,000 characters, written with consistent grammar-like structures. Its illustrations are not random doodles but carefully executed diagrams, some spanning entire fold-out pages. To maintain such complexity across an entire book would require extraordinary effort for no clear gain. The illustrations themselves deepen the mystery. The botanical section shows plants that appear at once familiar and alien. Some leaves resemble known species, but their combinations do not exist in nature. Their roots twist into impossible knots, their flowers bloom in fantastical ways. Were these meant to be medicinal plants, alchemical symbols? Or were they depictions of flora from a world we no longer know? Other sections depict strange astronomical charts. Circles filled with stars, suns, and moons form cosmic patterns. Zodiac symbols appear, but they are paired with unfamiliar imagery. Fold-out pages show star maps with concentric rings, as though charting movements across multiple dimensions of the sky. Was this a guide to celestial cycles, a book of astrology, or an attempt to capture a cosmology lost to history? Then there are the so-called biological sections. Naked human figures, mostly women, are drawn bathing in green-blue pools, connected by a web of pipes and channels. Some seem to flow into organs or plant-like structures. Others appear to merge with stars. Scholars have suggested these pages might represent medical knowledge, perhaps an herbal system of healing combined with astrology. But the images are so unlike anything else in medieval European texts that they resist classification. There is also a section filled with dense text and elaborate diagrams, sometimes called the pharmaceutical section. Here, small jars are drawn alongside plant parts, suggesting recipes or preparations. If the text could be read, it might reveal herbal remedies, alchemical formulas, or spiritual instructions. But as of today, not a single sentence of the Voynich manuscript has been conclusively understood. Theories abound. Some believe it was the work of a lone genius, encoding personal discoveries to protect them from rivals. Others suggest it was created by a secretive order, perhaps tied to the alchemists or mystics of the Middle Ages. Still others push the boundaries further, speculating that the manuscript is a relic of an older, unknown civilization, or even a message from beyond our world. What makes the mystery more haunting is that we can feel the presence of the author in every stroke of ink. Whoever wrote the manuscript devoted immense time to it, page after page of careful script, diagram after diagram, each illustration colored with natural pigments. The writer must have believed this knowledge was important enough to preserve across centuries. But for whom? For what purpose? Some progress has been claimed. In recent years, computer scientists have tried using artificial intelligence to detect hidden patterns in the script. Some claim the language might be related to Hebrew, others to extinct dialects of Romance languages. But none of these interpretations hold universally across the text. Every supposed breakthrough collapses under scrutiny, leaving us once again in the dark. One of the most intriguing aspects of the Voynich manuscript is its silence. Unlike other medieval codices, it contains no marginal notes, no scribbles of explanation, no known references in contemporary writings. It is as though the book simply appeared, fully formed, with no record of who created it or why. This silence magnifies the enigma, making it feel less like a forgotten manual and more like an intentional riddle. And yet, there is a strange beauty to it. The looping script flows across the page like music in an unknown key. The illustrations glow with a surreal charm at once familiar and alien. Scholars who study it often describe a sense of wonder, as though the book is alive, challenging them to unlock its voice. Imagine holding the manuscript in your hands. The vellum is smooth, the ink still dark despite the centuries. You turn a page and see plants that defy botany, stars arranged in patterns never charted, women bathing in cosmic waters. You realize that someone, long ago, created this with purpose. You are staring into the mind of a person or perhaps a culture that saw the world in a way we cannot comprehend. What secrets could it contain? Could it be a lost system of medicine, a compendium of plants with healing properties we no longer know? Could it be an astronomical manual describing cycles of the heavens forgotten by modern science? Could it be both? An encyclopedia of a worldview that united nature, cosmos, and spirit into a single whole? And what if it is something more? What if the Voynich manuscript is not only undeciphered because the language is lost, but because it encodes ideas outside our frame of reference? What if we are staring at knowledge too alien, too foreign, to fit within our categories of science, medicine, or spirituality? For now, the book remains silent. Its pages are displayed behind glass, its digital scans available online to scholars around the world. Anyone can try to read it. Many have tried. All have failed. And so it sits, challenging each generation, whispering that history still holds secrets we cannot yet unlock. The Voynich manuscript is more than a curiosity. It is a reminder that the past is not fully known, that there are texts, monuments, and relics which resist explanation, standing as echoes of forgotten worlds. And as long as it remains undeciphered, it will continue to captivate, to frustrate, and to inspire. But if the Voynich manuscript shows us a world of plants and stars we cannot interpret, another relic challenges our understanding of geography itself. In 1513, an Ottoman admiral drew a map that should not exist, a map that depicted lands unknown to his age and coastlines that science tells us should have been invisible. This is the mystery of the Piri Reis map. The map of Piri Reis. In the year 1513, during the height of the Ottoman Empire, an admiral named Piri Reis created a map that should not exist. Drawn on gazelle skin parchment, it measures only a fragment of what was once a larger chart, yet even this piece is enough to shake our understanding of history. At first glance, it shows the familiar outlines of Europe, North Africa, and the eastern coast of South America. But hidden within its details is something far stranger, a depiction of Antarctica centuries before its official discovery and drawn not under ice, but with a visible coastline. This is the enigma of the Piri Reis map, an artifact that has haunted cartographers, historians, and explorers for centuries. Piri Reis himself was no ordinary sailor. Born into a family of seafarers, he became one of the most respected naval commanders of the Ottoman fleet. But he was also a scholar, a man who collected maps and knowledge from around the world. In his own notes, he claimed that his map of 1513 was based on dozens of older sources, some from the Arabs, some from the Portuguese, and some, he said, dating back to the time of Alexander the Great. That statement alone is extraordinary. If true, it suggests that fragments of ancient maps survived through the ages, passed down from empire to empire, copied and recopied until they reached the hands of an Ottoman admiral. But where did those original maps come from? Who were the map makers who charted coastlines long before Columbus, long before Magellan, long before the Age of Discovery? The most controversial detail lies at the southern edge of the Piri Reis map. There, along the bottom of the parchment, is a landmass unmistakably resembling the northern coast of Antarctica. Yet the continent would not be officially discovered until 1820, over 300 years later. And what makes this depiction even more mysterious is the way it is drawn. The coastline appears free of ice, showing bays, inlets, and mountains that match remarkably well with modern surveys of Antarctica's subglacial topography. In other words, the map seems to show Antarctica not as it is today, buried under miles of ice, but as it was thousands of years ago. According to modern science, the last time Antarctica's coasts were ice-free was at least 6,000 years ago, long before any known civilization possessed seafaring skills advanced enough to chart such territory. If the Piri Reis map truly shows Antarctica as it once was, it would imply that some forgotten civilization possessed global navigation skills and knowledge of geography far beyond what we attribute to the ancient world. Skeptics argue that the resemblance is coincidence, that the landmass depicted could simply be a distorted representation of South America drawn too far south. Cartographers in the 16th century often exaggerated or misplaced coastlines, but this explanation falters under scrutiny. Certain details of the map align too closely with modern satellite imagery features hidden beneath ice, only revealed to us with the technology of the 20th century. How could a 16th century admiral have drawn what we only discovered in the modern era? The mystery deepens when we consider the precision of the South American coastlines on the Piri Reis map. Columbus had only recently sailed the Caribbean, and European knowledge of the Americas was still fragmentary. Yet Piri Reis managed to chart portions of the Brazilian coast with surprising accuracy. He himself admitted in the margins of his map that he relied on 20 charts and Mapai Mundi, including those drawn by 4 Portuguese and 1 by Columbus. But he also referred to older, unnamed sources maps from the ancient kings. Could these older maps have been relics of lost libraries? The Great Library of Alexandria, before its destruction, was said to have housed records from across the ancient world, Egyptian, Greek, Mesopotamian, and beyond. Some believe that charts from ancient seafarers, perhaps even civilizations we do not yet recognize, survived long enough to be copied into medieval and Renaissance atlases. If so, the Piri-Reis map may be one of the last surviving fragments of a global knowledge system erased by time. Consider the implications. If an ancient people truly mapped Antarctica without ice, it means they possessed not only advanced ships capable of navigating treacherous southern seas, but also the mathematical ability to measure latitude with extraordinary precision. Such skills are not attributed to any known civilization of the distant past. It would require astronomical knowledge, instruments for navigation, and centuries of accumulated exploration. Some researchers have suggested that the map could be evidence of a seafaring culture, predating recorded history, a civilization capable of global navigation before the rise of Egypt, Sumer, or the Indus Valley. Others push further, speculating connections with Atlantis or other legendary lost worlds. While mainstream scholars reject such theories as speculative, the questions raised by the Piri-Reis map remain unanswered. Even its creation in 1513 is mysterious. Why would an Ottoman admiral, centuries ahead of the Antarctic age of exploration, care to include a southern continent? At the time, European navigators were still uncertain of what lay beyond South America. The very idea of a vast southern land was speculation, known as Terra Australis Incognita, the unknown southern land. Yet Piri-Reis drew it with the confidence of someone who had sources to rely upon. In 1929, the map was rediscovered in the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, and since then it has fascinated scholars and conspiracy theorists alike. Charles Hapgood, a 20th century professor of history, argued that the Piri-Reis map was part of a series of ancient charts that predated known civilizations. In his book Maps of the Ancient Sea Kings, Hapgood claimed the map showed evidence of an advanced culture capable of mapping the globe long before the rise of modern nations. Even Albert Einstein, in correspondence, acknowledged Hapgood's work, noting that it raised questions worth investigating. To this day, the debate continues. Some dismiss the anomalies as misinterpretations. Others insist that the level of detail cannot be explained away by coincidence. But regardless of interpretation, the map remains an outlier, a fragment that does not fit neatly into our history books. Picture yourself unrolling the Piri-Reis map in 1513. Before you lies a world half known, half imagined. The coastlines of Africa curve with startling accuracy. The Americas stretch southward into lands just being touched by European sails. And at the bottom, a mysterious coast hints at a land no one in your world has yet seen. You would not know it, but you are staring at Antarctica centuries before its rediscovery. What knowledge has been lost between then and now? If the Piri-Reis map was based on older sources, where are those originals? Were they destroyed in the burning of libraries, or do they lie buried somewhere, waiting to be found? The Piri-Reis map reminds us that history is not always linear. Knowledge can rise, be lost, and rise again, like tides across the centuries. And perhaps the map is not just a record of geography, but a message from the past, a reminder that our ancestors may have known more than we think. But if maps can preserve impossible knowledge, artifacts can too. In the hills of Germany, a bronze disc was unearthed that showed the cosmos in golden symbols, a relic of the stars created thousands of years before modern astronomy. This is the story of the Nebra Sky Disk. The Nebra Sky Disk. In the summer of 1999, two treasure hunters armed with metal detectors stumbled upon an object buried beneath the soil of Mittelberg Hill, near the town of Nebra in Germany. At first, they believed they had found little more than another piece of bronze. But when they cleaned the dirt from its surface, a circular disc gleamed back at them, decorated with golden shapes that shimmered in the light. What they held in their hands was something the modern world had never seen before, the Nebra sky disk, a relic that would shake archaeology and rewrite what we know about the Bronze Age. The disk measures just about 12 inches across, forged in bronze and adorned with gold leaf inlays. At its center, a large golden circle glows like the sun. A crescent arcs delicately across one side, unmistakably representing the moon. And scattered across the disk are smaller golden dots, arranged not randomly but in a pattern. When astronomers examined it, they quickly realized what they were looking at: a depiction of the Pleiades star cluster, one of the most recognizable features of the night sky. Dating revealed the disk to be over 3,600 years old, crafted around 1600 BCE, placing it among the earliest known depictions of the cosmos anywhere in the world. Before its discovery, scholars believed that prehistoric Europeans had only a rudimentary understanding of the stars. The disk changed everything. It showed that the people of Bronze Age Europe were not merely farmers and warriors. They were astronomers, philosophers, and visionaries, mapping the heavens with a sophistication far ahead of their time. But the Nebra sky disk is not just an artifact of art. Its golden inlays appear to encode astronomical knowledge. The crescent moon, positioned near the Pleiades, may indicate the timing of seasonal cycles. Ancient people could have used it to determine when to plant crops, to track lunar eclipses, or to coordinate festivals. The disk appears to mark the time when the Pleiades disappear from the evening sky, a phenomenon that coincides with harvest and planting seasons. In other words, the disk functioned as a portable calendar, compact and beautiful, uniting earthbound life with the rhythms of the stars. Later modifications to the disk suggest evolving knowledge. At some point after its original creation, golden arcs were added to the edges, spanning 82 degrees. This matches the angle between sunrise and sunset at the solstices in Central Europe. The people who modified the disk were not merely guessing, they understood the precise movements of the sun across the horizon throughout the year. Still later, another addition was made, a golden arc at the bottom, thought to represent a solar boat, a symbol seen in many ancient cultures from Egypt to Scandinavia, depicting the journey of the sun across the sky and under the world. The Nebra sky disk, then, is not a static artifact. It is a palimpsest, a record of evolving astronomical knowledge spanning generations. Each modification reflects a deepening understanding of the heavens, passed down and encoded in the metal. Its discovery, however, was far from straightforward. The treasure hunters who unearthed it in 1999 did not report it legally. Instead, they attempted to sell it on the black market. For years, the disk disappeared into the underworld of stolen antiquities, passed from one collector to another. It was only in 2002, after a sting operation by German police, that the artifact was recovered. When archaeologists finally studied it, they were stunned by its implications. Here was proof that prehistoric Europe, long considered culturally behind civilizations like Egypt or Mesopotamia, possessed sophisticated astronomy of its own. This challenged the assumption that advanced science was limited to the so-called cradles of civilization. The Nebra sky disk forced historians to reconsider Europe's Bronze Age not as a time of simple tribal life, but as an era of knowledge, innovation, and cosmic connection. But the disk is not without controversy. Some skeptics questioned its authenticity, arguing that it was too extraordinary to be real. How could Bronze Age peoples have created such a precise and beautiful representation of the heavens? Yet tests on the patina, metallurgical analysis, and the context of its discovery all confirm its age. The disk is genuine, and it leaves us with questions as profound as those raised by the pyramids or Stonehenge. Who created it? Was it the work of a single master craftsman, a shaman astronomer who combined art and science in one creation? Or was it the product of a community forged as part of rituals that bound people to the cosmos, And why was it buried? Some suggest it was placed as an offering to the gods, returned to the earth after generations of use. Others believe it was hidden deliberately, perhaps to protect its knowledge in times of turmoil. To hold the Nebra sky disk is to hold a worldview. Its symbols reflect not only practical timekeeping, but a spiritual understanding of the universe. The sun, the moon, the stars, the solstices all united in a single vision of harmony between the heavens and the earth. It suggests that for Bronze Age Europeans, astronomy was not a separate science but a sacred way of life, where farming, ritual, and cosmos were intertwined. Imagine the scene thousands of years ago, a gathering on a hilltop, the disk held aloft as the night sky blazed with stars. The Pleiades shimmered overhead, and the moon arced across the heavens. Elders pointed to the disk, explaining the cycles, teaching the young when to sow and when to reap, when to celebrate and when to mourn. The disk was not just a tool. It was a bridge between generations, between the human world and the eternal dance of the sky. Even today, standing before it in a museum, its gold inlays catch the light, glowing softly as though still alive. Visitors fall silent, sensing its power. The Nebra sky disk is more than an artifact, it is a message. A message from ancestors who looked up at the same sky we see today and sought to understand their place within it. And yet, as profound as the disk is, it raises another question. If Bronze Age Europe held this level of knowledge, what else has been lost? What other tools of science and spirit lie buried, forgotten beneath soil and stone? The Nebra sky disk reminds us that ancient people were not primitive. They were observers, thinkers, dreamers. And in their dreams, they captured the cosmos itself. But while the Nebra sky disk reflects the heavens in glittering gold, another enigma takes a very different form. It is not a disk of bronze, but a collection of crystal skulls, carved with impossible precision, carrying legends of knowledge and power beyond our comprehension. The crystal skulls. Deep in the jungles of Central America, where vines twist around ancient temples and forgotten pyramids crumble beneath the relentless growth of the forest, legends speak of objects both sacred and impossible. They are not made of stone, gold, or jade. They are carved from something far stranger, solid blocks of quartz crystal shaped into the form of human skulls. These relics, known as the crystal skulls, are among the most enigmatic artifacts ever discovered. At first glance, they seem like works of extraordinary artistry. Smooth, transparent surfaces catch the light, casting shimmering reflections. Some are life-sized, others smaller, but all share a haunting realism. Their features are so precise, their proportions so accurate, that they appear to gaze back at the viewer with a silent, unsettling presence. But behind their beauty lies a mystery that continues to puzzle archaeologists, mystics, and scientists alike. Who made them, when, and for what purpose? One of the most famous is the Mitchell-Hedges skull, discovered in the 1920s in the ruins of Lubanton, an ancient Maya city in Belize, or at least, that is the story told. According to Anna Mitchell-Hedges, the adopted daughter of adventurer F.A. Mitchell-Hedges, she found the skull beneath a collapsed altar while exploring the site. The skull was almost indistinguishable from an actual human cranium, carved with such perfection that even modern jewelers admitted they could not reproduce it with the same level of detail. Microscopic studies later revealed something even more perplexing. The skull had been carved against the natural grain of the quartz crystal. This is a technique so advanced that even with today's tools, it would risk shattering the material. To create it by hand, without modern equipment, would have required not years, but centuries of careful, patient work. And yet, according to legend, these skulls are far older than the Maya themselves, handed down from civilizations long vanished. Other skulls have appeared in collections and museums. The British Museum houses one, as does the Musée du Quai Branly in Paris. Each one carries with it the same air of mystery, as though they were fragments of a forgotten tradition. Yet their origins are often shrouded in questionable histories, acquired through explorers, collectors, or even black market trades. This makes dating them difficult and their authenticity contested. But what fuels their enduring fascination is not only how they were made, it is what they are said to represent. Indigenous legends speak of the skulls as keepers of knowledge. According to some Maya and Aztec traditions, there were once 13 crystal skulls created by the gods or by an ancient advanced people. These skulls contain the wisdom of the world, from the origins of humanity to the secrets of the cosmos. Scattered across the earth, they would one day be reunited. And when brought together, it was said, they would reveal truths that could transform humanity. Imagine the power of such a myth. 13 skulls, glowing with light, brought into alignment to unlock hidden wisdom. It sounds like the stuff of fantasy, yet the legend persists across multiple traditions. Some shamans describe the skulls as vessels of spiritual energy, objects that can channel healing or visions. Others see them as cosmic computers, crystalline hard drives holding information we cannot yet access. In the modern era, the crystal skulls have been surrounded by stories of paranormal phenomena. People who come into contact with them report strange sensations, visions, dreams, even voices. Some claim the skulls radiate energy, that they can alter consciousness, heal illness, or communicate with other realms. Skeptics dismiss these claims as imagination, but those who have experienced them insist that something about the skulls defies explanation. From a scientific perspective, quartz crystal itself is fascinating. It is piezoelectric, meaning it can generate an electrical charge when compressed. Quartz is used in modern technology to regulate watches, radios, and even computers. Could the ancient creators of the skulls have understood some aspect of this property? Could the skulls have been designed as tools, amplifiers of energy, or devices and rituals that combine sound, light, and intention? The enigma of their age only deepens the puzzle. While laboratory tests have sometimes suggested that certain skulls were carved in the 19th century with modern tools, others defy easy categorization. If even one of them is genuinely ancient, it would revolutionize our understanding of craftsmanship and knowledge in the pre-Columbian world. How could civilizations without metal tools carve something so precise, so flawless, from one of the hardest materials on Earth? Skeptics argue that many of the skulls are indeed modern fabrications, created in Europe during the 19th century to satisfy the appetite of collectors fascinated with the mystic cultures of the Americas, and perhaps some are, but the power of the legend is not diminished, because what matters is not only the object itself, but the myth it carries, the sense of awe it inspires. Consider how these skulls have permeated popular imagination. From novels to films, from New Age spirituality to serious archaeological debates, they stand as symbols of mystery. They embody the tension between science and myth, between skepticism and belief. They are reminders that objects can hold not just physical form, but stories, hopes, and fears. Now imagine standing in a dimly lit room, a crystal skull before you. Light filters through the quartz, refracting into rainbow glimmers. Its hollow eyes seem alive, reflecting your own gaze. For a moment, you feel that you are not looking at an artifact, but at a present something watching, something waiting. Whether it is imagination, energy, or memory, the effect is undeniable. The crystal skulls may be relics of lost civilizations. They may be masterpieces of unknown artisans. They may even be modern creations imbued with ancient myths. But whatever their origin, they command attention. They remind us of humanity's deep hunger for connection to the mysteries of life and death, for objects that bridge the human and the divine. and perhaps that is their true power. Whether authentic or forged, whether ancient tools or modern inventions, they serve as catalysts for questions. They push us to wonder about what has been lost, about the possibility of hidden knowledge, about the fragile line between reality and legend. The jungles of Central America still whisper with secrets, just as the sands of Egypt and the skies of Europe do. And if skulls of crystal can embody such mystery, what of entire cities hidden beneath the ground? In Turkey, beneath the plains of Cappadocia, lies one such enigma, a city carved underground, large enough to shelter tens of thousands. Our journey now takes us to Derinkuyu, the subterranean metropolis that redefines what we know about ancient engineering. Derinkuyu, the underground city. Beneath the windswept plains of Cappadocia in central Turkey lies a secret world carved not into mountains or cliffs, but deep into the earth itself. This hidden labyrinth is not a handful of tunnels or a scattering of caves. It is a city complete, intricate, and immense, large enough to shelter more than 20,000 people. Its name is Derinkuyu, meaning deep well, and it is one of the most astonishing feats of ancient engineering ever discovered. At first sight, Cappadocia's surface already looks like a landscape from another planet. Soft volcanic rock, eroded by wind and water, has created valleys filled with towering spires, cones, and honeycombed cliffs. For centuries, people carved homes, churches, and monasteries into this soft stone, creating entire communities above ground. But hidden below, far deeper than most imagined, lies a subterranean world that pushes the boundaries of what we think ancient societies were capable of. Derinkuyu descends over 280 feet into the earth. Its tunnels stretch across multiple levels, some count 8, others more than 12. These levels contain everything a functioning city would need: living quarters, kitchens, stables, storage rooms, wineries, and even chapels. Ventilation shafts run like arteries through the rock, bringing fresh air down to the lowest depths. Wells provided water, protected from contamination on the surface. Massive rolling stone doors, weighing up to 1,000 pounds, were installed at key passageways. With a simple push, defenders could seal off entire sections of the city, protecting the inhabitants from invaders. To walk through Derinkuyu is to step into another world. Narrow corridors twist into darkness, opening suddenly into large chambers that echo with silence. Ceilings arch overhead, blackened by smoke from fires that once burned. Carved niches line the walls, perhaps for lamps or offerings. In some places, the tunnels are so tight you must stoop to pass. In others, they expand into halls that could hold hundreds. It is both claustrophobic and awe-inspiring, a testament to the determination and ingenuity of its builders. But who were those builders, and why did they dig so deep? Mainstream archaeology suggests that Derinkuyu may have begun as small underground refuges during the Hittite period, around 1600 BCE, later expanded by Phrygians, Persians, Byzantines, and others. Over centuries, as waves of invaders swept across Anatolia, communities retreated underground for protection. Cappadocia, positioned on trade routes between empires, was a crossroads of conflict. To survive, people carved not only homes above ground but entire cities below. Yet the sheer scale of Derinkuyu raises questions. This was not simply a hideout. It could sustain tens of thousands of people for extended periods. Archaeologists have found evidence of food storage, wine presses, and even schools. How long could they have lived down there? Days? Weeks? Perhaps even months? For what threats would such drastic measures be necessary? Some suggest it was protection against armies, Persians, Arabs, Mongols, or Turks. Others argue it may have been refuge during times of religious persecution, especially during the early Christian era. The Byzantine tunnels, chapels, and crosses carved into the stone suggest Christians once worshipped in secret within these depths. Yet the origin of Derinku feels older, deeper, as though its roots stretch into prehistory. There are theories controversial but persistent that the city's origins may go back far beyond the Hittites. Some fringe researchers propose that Derinku was built to withstand not human enemies, but environmental catastrophes. Cappadocia lies in a seismically active zone. Could ancient people have fled underground to escape earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, or even cosmic events? Others push the envelope further, suggesting it was constructed as a shelter from something more terrifying: solar flares, floods, or even invasions from beyond our world. Whatever its true origin, Derinku was not unique. The region of Cappadocia contains more than 200 underground complexes, many connected by miles of tunnels. Together, they form a subterranean network stretching across the landscape as if an entire second world was carved beneath the earth. Derinku is simply the largest and most elaborate, the crown jewel of this hidden realm. The engineering alone is staggering. How did ancient builders carve such vast spaces out of solid rock with primitive tools? How did they design ventilation systems that still work today, keeping air circulating across multiple levels? How did they ensure water supply, food storage, and structural stability? Modern engineers who study Derinku admit that its construction would be challenging even with today's technology. To think it was achieved thousands of years ago is humbling and perhaps unsettling. Imagine the scene centuries ago. The warning of approaching armies spreads across the Cappadocian plateau. Families gather their possessions and descend into narrow openings in the earth. The stone doors roll shut behind them, sealing off the outside world. Torches flicker against the carved walls. Children huddle in chambers while elders pray in underground chapels. For days, life continues beneath the ground, cooking, teaching, worshiping, surviving, while danger rages above. Now imagine another possibility. What if Derinku was not only a temporary refuge, but a permanent way of life? What if generations grew up beneath the earth, seeing sunlight only rarely, building a society in the dark? What kind of worldview would such a people develop? Would they see themselves as chosen, protected, hidden? Would they believe the world above was cursed and that safety lay only in the depths? Standing in Derinku today, the silence is overwhelming. Tourists walk its tunnels, their footsteps echoing off the stone. But close your eyes and you can almost hear the voices of those who once lived here, the laughter of children, the chanting of priests, the grind of stone mills, the creak of wooden doors rolling shut. It feels less like a ruin and more like a city caught in time, waiting for its inhabitants to return. For centuries, Derinku lay forgotten, its entrances concealed, its depths silent. It was rediscovered only in 1963, when a man renovating his home broke through a wall and found himself staring into a tunnel that led downward into the earth. Imagine his shock as he realized he had uncovered an entire hidden city. Since then, archaeologists have mapped Derinku, but large portions remain unexplored. The city still guards its secrets. The underground city forces us to reconsider what we know of ancient people. They were not only builders of pyramids, temples, or palaces. They were also architects of hidden worlds, capable of reshaping entire landscapes to survive. Derinku is a reminder that human ingenuity thrives not only in the light of the sun, but in the darkness below. And perhaps most intriguing of all is the possibility that Derinku still holds undiscovered chambers. Some tunnels remain blocked, sealed off by rubble or by massive stone doors that have not been moved in centuries. What lies beyond them? More living quarters? Treasures? Sacred texts? Or perhaps clues that could push its origin back even further in time? Derinku remains a paradox, A city without a clear builder, a masterpiece without an author. It is a monument not of stone above the earth, but of silence beneath it. And like all the great mysteries of the ancient world, it leaves us with more questions than answers. But while Derinku challenges us to descend into the depths of the earth, our final mystery returns us to the surface, to the most famous monument of them all. The Great Pyramid of Giza, studied more than any structure in history, still guards secrets encoded in its very design. Secrets that may reveal knowledge of the earth and the cosmos hidden in plain sight. The hidden code of the Great Pyramid. The Great Pyramid of Giza, rising above the Egyptian desert, is perhaps the most studied monument on earth. For over 4,000 years, it has stood, weathering time, wind, and history. To many, it is simply the tomb of a pharaoh. But to others, it is something far more, a message in stone, a code written across ages, containing knowledge of the earth, the heavens, and perhaps even of time itself. When we look at the Great Pyramid today, we see a structure stripped of its outer casing, its smooth white limestone blocks long removed. Yet in its original form, it would have gleamed in the desert sun, reflecting light so brilliantly it could be seen for miles like a beacon. At its apex once stood a capstone, likely gilded, capturing the rays of the sun. To the ancients, it must have looked less like a building and more like a star fallen to earth. But beyond its appearance lies a puzzle of numbers and proportions. The base of the pyramid measures 756 feet on each side. Multiply this length by 4, and you get 3,024 feet. Now compare that to the circumference of the Earth at the equator. Divide the Earth's circumference by the pyramid's height, and you arrive at a near-perfect approximation of pi. The ratio of its perimeter to its height is almost exactly 2. Was this a coincidence, or did the builders encode the mathematical constant centuries before its formal discovery? Then consider the pyramid's alignment. Its sides are oriented almost perfectly to the cardinal points, north, south, east, west, with an error of less than a fraction of a degree. This precision rivals even modern engineering. To achieve it, the builders must have understood not only the movement of the sun, but the precession of the stars. Knowledge we often attribute only to much later civilizations. Some researchers point to another astonishing correlation. The pyramid's location, when expressed in latitude, corresponds closely to the numerical value of the speed of light, 299,792,458 meters per second. Could this be pure chance? Or is it another encoded message left for those with the tools to understand it? Inside the pyramid, mysteries multiply. Narrow shafts extend from the king's chamber upward, aligning not randomly but with specific stars. One points toward Orion's belt, associated with Osiris, the god of the afterlife. Another points toward Sirius, the star of Isis. These alignments suggest that the pyramid was not only a tomb but a cosmic machine, designed to link earth and sky, the pharaoh and the gods. In recent years, technology has revealed even more secrets. In 2017, scientists using Muon radiography particles from cosmic rays that pass through stone detected a massive void inside the pyramid, a hidden chamber never before seen. Its size rivals the Grand Gallery, yet its purpose remains unknown. What lies inside? Is it empty space? A structural feature? Or could it hold relics, inscriptions, or even the long-sought records of lost knowledge? The pyramid also encodes time. Some researchers argue that its measurements reflect not only the Earth's size but the duration of its solar year. The base perimeter corresponds closely to the number of days in a year when converted into certain units. The slope of its sides matches angles tied to the golden ratio. It is as though the builders sought to embed within stone the universal constants of life, geometry, and time. Mainstream archaeology insists the pyramid was built as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu around 2560 BCE, and yet no body has ever been found inside. No definitive burial artifacts have been uncovered. What was discovered were empty chambers, sarcophagi with no remains, and passageways leading into silence. If it was truly meant as a tomb, why is it so different from every other royal burial in Egypt? Why the secrecy, the shafts, the astronomical alignments, the hidden voids? Alternative theories abound. Some suggest the pyramid was a power plant of sorts, harnessing natural energies of the earth through its shape and materials. Others argue it was a time capsule, deliberately encoding mathematical and astronomical knowledge to outlast civilizations. Still others whisper of origins far older than Khufu, placing its construction in a forgotten age, a remnant of a lost world whose knowledge was erased from history. What cannot be denied is that the Great Pyramid is more than stone. It is a statement. It tells us that ancient builders were capable of feats beyond what we easily explain. It reminds us that civilizations rise and fall, but knowledge can endure in forms we may not recognize until we are ready. Standing at its base, dwarfed by its immensity, you cannot help but feel its message. Each block, weighing tons, was hauled into place with purpose. Each angle aligns with the cosmos. Each measurement whispers of numbers we consider modern, but which may be timeless. It is as if the pyramid was meant not only for those who built it, but for us, for future generations who would puzzle over its secrets. Perhaps that is the ultimate code of the Great Pyramid, not a single hidden message, but an invitation. An invitation to seek, to question, to wonder. To remember that history is not fixed, but alive, and that the greatest monuments are those that make us realize how little we truly know. And so the Great Pyramid stands, silent but speaking. A riddle of stone that refuses to be solved. A reminder that knowledge can be buried in plain sight, waiting for those willing to listen. We have journeyed from deserts to rainforests, from mountains to underground cities, from bronze discs of the stars to crystal skulls carved with impossible precision. Along the way, one truth has emerged. The story of humanity is not complete. Each of these mysteries, the labyrinth of Giza, the invisible ruins of the Amazon, the gate of Hayu Marca, Stonehenge, the Voynich manuscript, the Piri race map, the Nebra sky disk, the crystal skulls, Darinkyu, and the Great Pyramid reminds us that the past is deeper, stranger, and more wondrous than we are taught. History, as written in our books, is a fragile outline. Beneath it lies a tapestry of forgotten knowledge, erased cultures, and unsolved enigmas. Civilizations we thought incapable of complexity reveal mastery of astronomy, mathematics, engineering, and symbolism. Monuments we assumed were ceremonial may have been calendars, machines, or messages. Texts we cannot read whisper of worlds we cannot imagine. The tragedy is clear. So much has been lost, burned in libraries, buried under jungles, drowned beneath oceans, sealed within stone. The conflict is ongoing. Scholars debate, skeptics argue, dreamers imagine. But the transformation is ours to claim. Each mystery invites us to expand our perspective, to accept that humanity is older, wiser, and more resilient than we once believed. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of all, that the past is not gone. It is here, in the stones beneath our feet, in the maps preserved against reason, in the stars still shining above us. These secrets are not hidden in distant places. They are buried in plain sight, waiting for us to see. So as you close this journey, remember, the greatest discoveries are not only about what we find in the earth, but about what we awaken in ourselves. To wonder, to question, to seek, that is the true legacy of the ancients.